Although coffee in modern times is seen as a Western necessity, mostly due to the rates of consumption, the bean's story begins much the same way as any other European favourite, in Africa, specifically the Kingdom of Ethiopia, where the drink has been brewing for thousands of years. The spread of coffee culture can be traced back to the Ottoman Empire, particularly through the influence of coffee houses in Istanbul. Coffee was later popularized as a commodity to be traded by the empire. Coffee cultivation often began in colonies of European empires, with the French in the Caribbean and the Dutch cultivating coffee in Java. The Dutch East India Company, the VOC, was and remains to this day the largest company to have ever existed. Being influential during the Age of Exploration, it played a significant role in the global coffee trade. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the VOC established trade routes and trading posts across Asia, Africa, and the Americas, facilitating the exchange of goods between the regions. The production of coffee in colonial settings was often dependent on forced labor or exploitative labor practices. Slavery and coerced labor were prevalent in many coffee-producing regions, contributing to the economic success of these empires. Coffee houses in Europe, which had become popular in the 17th century, were spaces for cultural exchange, intellectual discourse, and social interaction. They played a role in shaping public opinion and were often present in cities within imperial territories. The spread of coffee consumption often coincided with the expansion of empires. As European powers expanded their influence, coffee became a symbol of sophistication and cosmopolitanism. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, European powers such as the Dutch and the French were heavily involved in the cultivation of coffee in their Southeast Asian colonies. Vietnam, for example, became a major coffee producer during the French colonial period. As nationalist movements emerged in colonial territories, the control of coffee production and trade became a focal point of economic independence. Post-colonial nations often sought to assert control over their own coffee industries. Today, the legacy of colonial-era coffee production is still visible in many coffee-producing regions. The patterns of production, trade relationships, and economic structures established during the colonial period continue to influence the global coffee industry. Brazil is arguably the most important country in regard to coffee cultivation in modern times, standing as the world's largest producer and exporter of coffee beans with nearly 40% of the supply. With its vast agricultural regions and favourable climate, Brazil produces a diverse range of coffee varieties. The country's coffee industry continues to drive economic growth and provide livelihoods for millions of people across various regions. It's not all positive for Brazil though. Deforestation for coffee plantations threatens biodiversity and exacerbates climate change. Land conflicts and labour exploitation, including forced labour and child labour, persist in some major coffee-growing regions. Criminal organisations, including gangs, exploit vulnerable communities, perpetuating violence and environmental degradation. Organisations such as Fair Trade operate with the intent to help farmers and suppliers in developing countries. Fair trade ensures that coffee farmers receive fair prices, fair labour conditions, and community development funds. Farmers benefit from stable incomes, safe working conditions, and access to education and healthcare. Premiums support projects like building schools and promoting sustainable farming. Environmental sustainability is encouraged through organic practices and biodiversity conservation. Fair trade empowers farmers with democratic decision-making and market access, fostering transparency in the supply chain. Overall, fair trade promotes social equity, environmental stewardship, and economic development in the coffee industry, benefiting both farmers and consumers. Your coffee may be more expensive from having the Fair Trade logo on it, but it's almost guaranteed that the hands that made it every step along the way weren't forced, abused, or swindled. It is surprising to most that the top consumers of coffee are not in the countries where it is produced. Scandinavian countries, such as Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Denmark, rank among the top consumers of coffee per capita globally. This high consumption is deeply rooted in their cultural traditions, where coffee serves as a social lubricant, particularly during gatherings and breaks. The cold climate prevalent in these countries also contributes to increased coffee consumption, as people seek warmth and comfort from hot beverages. Coffee is ingrained in the Scandinavian workplace culture, with regular coffee breaks fostering camaraderie and productivity. Moreover, Scandinavians tend to prioritize high-quality coffee, often preferring freshly brewed beverages made from premium beans. The long dark winters, further accentuate the role of coffee as a source of energy and comfort, particularly in combating seasonal affective disorder. Additionally, the prevalence of vibrant cafe cultures in Scandinavian cities encourages coffee consumption outside the home. Coffee offers antioxidants and potential health benefits like reduced risk of diseases such as Parkinson's and type 2 diabetes. Its caffeine content boosts cognitive function and mood. However, excessive intake can lead to increased heart rate, anxiety, and digestive issues. Pregnant individuals should limit consumption due to fetal risks, while coffee may benefit liver health and bowel regularity. It can worsen acid reflux, insomnia, and jitteriness. Moderation is key as individual responses vary. Consulting healthcare professionals for personalized advice is prudent, especially for those with health conditions or sensitivities.